Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to ask you something that most men never say out loud, but many feel deep down in the quiet moments between trust and suspicion. Have you ever looked at the woman you love and felt something was off? Not loud, not obvious, but subtle, like a breeze in a room with no open window. Her laugh sounded the same, her hug still warm, but her eyes, her attention, something shifted, and you couldn't explain it, but you felt it. And then you questioned yourself, am I just being paranoid? Am I overthinking? You brushed it off, didn't want to come off insecure or controlling. But deep inside it stayed. This video is not about blame, it's not about feeding fear or suspicion. It's about awareness, clarity, and emotional courage. Because cheating doesn't always start in the bedroom. It often begins in the silence, in the distance, in the places where connection used to live. Men, what if I told you that a woman rarely cheats without first showing signs? Small, hidden, often misread signs that speak louder than words if you know where to listen. Today, we open that door, not to spy, but to understand, not to accuse, but to awaken. Because when trust is tested, your strength isn't in control. It's in awareness. You know, relationships are like music. At their best, they're harmonious, emotional, full of rhythm and depth. But sometimes the tune changes and it's not always loud. Sometimes it's just a single note played differently and you feel it before you understand it. That's how subtle infidelity can begin. Not with fireworks, not with lipstick on a collar or a stranger's perfume on her shirt. It starts in the quiet, in the emotional gap, in the way her "I love you" suddenly feels like punctuation instead of poetry. You might be here because something feels off. Or maybe you're just trying to protect something you value deeply. Your relationship, your integrity, your peace of mind. Either way, I'm glad you're here, because what we're about to explore isn't a list of accusations. It's not a witch hunt. It's a conversation, a raw, real, and emotionally honest look at what happens when a woman's heart begins to drift away from the man beside her. We're going to talk about the hidden signs, those subtle behavioral and emotional shifts that often go unnoticed until it's too late. And no, this isn't about catching her. It's about understanding her. It's about reclaiming your place, not just beside her, but within yourself. Because knowing the signs doesn't just protect you from betrayal, it strengthens your ability to choose clarity over confusion, dignity over denial. So let's start here with the first shift, one that's so quiet it often gets confused with normal relationship fatigue. I'm talking about emotional disengagement. When a woman begins to cheat, whether emotionally or physically, it almost always begins with her pulling her emotional energy away from you. It's not always obvious. She might still ask about your day, still sit beside you at dinner, still touch your arm when you talk, but there's a difference in how she listens. She used to hang on to your words like they mattered. Now, there's a delay in her eyes, a softness replaced with subtle tension, like she's watching your lips move, but her mind is miles away. She doesn't laugh at your jokes like she used to, not because you've suddenly become unfunny, but because her emotional bandwidth is elsewhere. And the hardest part, she may not even realize she's doing it. That's the cruelty of emotional disengagement. It's often unintentional, but that doesn't make it any less real. You might notice she no longer argues about the little things, and that may seem like a blessing at first. Less conflict, more peace. But sometimes, the absence of conflict isn't a sign of maturity. It's a sign she's already detached. She's no longer fighting for the relationship because she's emotionally checked out. Disengagement isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like silence, indifference, apathy wrapped in politeness. And here's where it gets more complex, because as men, you're often conditioned to tolerate emotional distance. You've been taught to be the rock, to ignore the coldness, to tell yourself, she's just tired, or it's just a face. But deep down, you know when the woman you love stops reaching for your heart, when her touch becomes routine, when her questions become shallow, when she stops asking you to open up, not because she trusts you, but because she stopped investing in knowing you. That brings us to the second sign, a shift in priorities. This one's easy to dismiss because it often comes dressed as ambition, independence, self-care. And listen, those are beautiful things. A woman should pursue her passions, chase her dreams, reconnect with herself. But when she starts investing her time and energy into everything but the relationship, when suddenly her evenings are always full, her phone is always face down, and "I'm just busy" becomes the chorus of your everyday life, it's time to pay attention. She starts scheduling her life around things that don't include you, not in a malicious way, but in a way that gradually edges you out. The long conversations at night disappear. The weekend plans are made without you. She becomes emotionally available, just not to you. It's not the absence that hurts the most. It's the replacement, the feeling that she's showing up more completely somewhere else. Whether it's with someone, something, or even a fantasy version of herself that doesn't include you anymore. And here's the tricky part, she may even include you in the narrative. She'll say, "I just need to do this for me." Or, "You know, I've been wanting this for a while," and you'll nod because you love her and you want her to grow. But growth doesn't require disconnection. When love is healthy, personal evolution brings partners closer, not further apart. If she's growing and you feel more included, more inspired, more connected, that's not what we're talking about. But if you feel like a spectator in her new life, watching her shine from the sidelines while your connection fades quietly into the shadows, something deeper is shifting. So what do you do with all this? The answer is not paranoia, it's not obsession, it's not clinging or accusing or stalking her every move. It's pause, reflection, conversation. Ask yourself, when did you stop feeling like a priority in her life? When did her eyes start feeling distant? Even when she was close, when did your voice stop landing in her soul? Cheating is often preceded by internal separation, and too many men realize it only after it's become physical. But if you can see it early, not as a way to trap her, but to awaken your own awareness, then you give yourself a powerful gift choice. The choice to reconnect, the choice to confront, the choice to protect your peace, your time, and your dignity. Let's keep going, because there's more to uncover, more signals that speak not just about her actions, but about your power to see clearly, love honestly, and stand firm in your emotional truth. When you start to feel like you're drifting in her world, not because you've changed, but because she has recentered her life without you, there's a quiet kind of grief that begins to settle in. Not the loud, stormy kind. No, it's the still, lonely ache that builds over time when you're lying next to someone who feels miles away, and that ache deepens with the third sign, the rise of secrecy. Now, secrecy doesn't always scream through locked phones or deleted messages. Sometimes it's subtler than that. It's the change in how she communicates, or how she doesn't. Once upon a time, she used to share the details of her day with you, not just the headlines. She'd tell you how the barista messed up her coffee, or how her coworker made her laugh. You were the safe space for the little things, but lately you get the edited version, the headlines, and even those feel curated. You ask how her day was, and she says it was fine, that's it. No follow-up, no details. And when you ask more, you feel like you're pulling teeth just to stay in the loop. Her phone starts to live in her hand, or face down on the table. She starts taking calls in the other room, texting with a faint smile she doesn't share with you anymore. And when you notice the change and gently ask about it, she becomes defensive. Why are you so paranoid? Can't I have some privacy? Yes, of course, privacy is part of any healthy relationship, but there's a difference between privacy and secrecy. Privacy is her having a part of her life that's her own. Secrecy is her hiding things she used to willingly share. It's not the existence of boundaries. It's the sudden walls that go up where there once were doors. Men often struggle here because you don't want to seem controlling. You want to be trusting, secure, and that's honorable. But trust doesn't mean ignoring your intuition. It means being brave enough to speak your truth. Not to accuse, but to understand. I feel like there's a distance growing between us. I miss being part of your world. That kind of vulnerability, it takes strength, it takes presence. And here's the truth. If her loyalty is intact, she'll feel that, she'll soften, she'll explain, she'll reach back. But if her loyalty has already begun to drift, she won't. She'll pivot, deflect, even gaslight. Because the wall is there to protect something she's not ready to confess or even admit to herself. And that brings us to the fourth sign, one that stings in the quietest of ways. A shift in physical affection. Now, I'm not just talking about sex, though yes, that can be a big part of it, but this is deeper. It's about touch, the simple, everyday intimacy that lives in a relationship's heartbeat. The way she used to squeeze your hand when you walked together, the kisses that weren't just routine, the hugs that lingered because she genuinely wanted to be close to you. When a woman starts cheating or emotionally investing in someone else, her relationship to touch changes. She may withdraw entirely, avoiding your embrace like it's a reminder of something she no longer feels. Or, oddly enough, she may become more affectionate, overly so, and that's the harder pattern to recognize. It's like she's trying to cover the guilt. She hugs longer than usual. She kisses you with forced intensity. But something is off. The tenderness isn't real. It's not flowing from connection. It's flowing from performance. Men often miss this because, understandably, you want to believe it's a spark reigniting, that maybe things are getting better. But deep down, you know when your partner's touch is hollow, when she's kissing you but thinking of someone else, when her body is present but her soul isn't. And again, this isn't about paranoia, it's about pattern. Is this a one-off, or has her affection become inconsistent, erratic, or calculated? Does she flinch when you reach for her? Or worse, go through the motions with an emotional vacancy that leaves you feeling lonelier after intimacy than before. What makes this so painful is that touch used to be the bridge between you, the place where words weren't needed. And now it feels like a performance or a shutdown. And you wonder, what did I do wrong? But it's not always about you. Sometimes it's about what she's unresolved in herself, what she's missing internally, what she's chasing externally. That leads us right into the fifth hidden sign, arguably the most painful and the most revealing. She begins to rewrite the story of your relationship in her mind, not just criticize, not just vent, but reframe your entire history together through a lens of negativity. Suddenly, the good times weren't that good, the loving memories, overlooked, forgotten, replaced with narratives about how you were never emotionally available, how she always had to do everything alone, how she was never truly happy. This isn't constructive feedback. This is emotional revision. And it's a psychological strategy, a way to justify behavior she knows is betraying the truth. Because if she can turn you into the villain, she can feel less guilty about stepping out. It doesn't mean you were perfect. No one is. But the rewriting, that's not honesty. It's an exit strategy. And here's the catch. She might not even be aware she's doing it. Human beings have a powerful way of reshaping memories to protect ourselves from shame. And so, slowly, she stops seeing you as her partner. She stops seeing you as the reason she's unhappy. And that narrative becomes the foundation she uses to disconnect, to drift, to cheat. So you find yourself confused, hurt, asking, was any of it real? And that's a devastating place to be. Because the story you thought you were building together is being dismantled, one memory at a time. But here's what you must hold on to: your truth, your knowing. Don't let someone else's rewritten script erase the love and integrity you brought to the relationship. This isn't about blaming her. It's about recognizing when a woman is rewriting the past in order to escape the present. It's about protecting your emotional clarity, about refusing to carry guilt that doesn't belong to you. Because the moment you start to see these signs, not just one, but patterns, you're being invited into something powerful, not confrontation, not desperation, but decision. Do I speak up? Do I call this out? Or do I protect my peace and prepare to let go with grace? Relationships change. People change. But betrayal doesn't have to destroy you. In fact, sometimes it wakes you up to a truth you've been avoiding, that love without respect, connection without honesty, and closeness without presence is just an illusion. So breathe. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're aware. And awareness, my friend, is your strength. So now you're standing in that delicate place, aware, awake, and aching. It's not just the signs anymore. It's the knowing. That deeper, quiet knowing that's been whispering for weeks, maybe months. And what you do with that knowing, it changes everything. But let me ask you something. When did you stop feeling like you were allowed to be vulnerable? When did society convince you that silence is strength, that suspicion is weakness, that admitting you're hurting somehow makes you less of a man? Because this experience of loving someone who's drifting, who may be deceiving, who once chose you with open eyes and now seems to be choosing something else in secret, it wounds in ways you can't explain. And the hardest part isn't even the betrayal. It's the loneliness you feel long before the truth ever comes out. The way your heart tries to stay loyal to someone who's already gone emotionally. That ache of loving someone who's slowly unloving you. But here's what I want you to hear. With everything in you, your worth does not dissolve in her confusion. Her disconnection does not define your value. Her secrecy, her rewriting, her silence, they are reflections of her internal weather, not a mirror of your failures. Still, that doesn't mean you're powerless. You see, in this space, you have a choice. A powerful, courageous, heart-wrenching choice you can confront with honesty, with dignity, without drama. Not to accuse, not to shame, but to speak your truth. I feel you pulling away. I feel distance where there used to be warmth. I'm not here to control you. I'm here to understand. Are we still in this together? And just saying it aloud, it can shift the entire dynamic. Sometimes she's unaware of how far she's drifted. Sometimes she's terrified to admit the truth even to herself. And sometimes, yes, she's already gone. And you saying it out loud is the moment she finally stops pretending. Whatever the outcome, you win clarity. And clarity is freedom. Because here's the secret most men don't hear enough. You are allowed to walk away from a woman who is no longer emotionally present. You are allowed to say, I love you, but I will not beg you to love me back. It's not about punishment. It's not about revenge. It's about self-respect. Because staying silent while your soul is bleeding doesn't make you strong. It makes you a stranger to your own heart. And I know what some of you might be thinking. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm overreacting? And yes, that's possible. But what's more dangerous? Speaking up and finding out you were wrong, or staying quiet and finding out too late that you were right. Your gut, your intuition, your emotional radar, they exist for a reason. And sometimes honoring those instincts is the first act of real courage you've shown in a long time, especially in a culture that tells men to swallow it down, to stay stoic, to never ask too many questions because a real man just handles it. But emotional handling isn't about silence. It's about showing up for your truth with maturity. You don't need to scream. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to manipulate. You just need to be clear. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm noticing. This is what I will and won't accept. And then watch what happens. Because the truth, when spoken calmly and bravely, exposes everything. If she's still with you in heart, she'll lean in. Maybe she'll cry. Maybe she'll break. Maybe the affair, emotional or physical, will be admitted. Or maybe, just maybe, it hasn't happened yet. And this conversation becomes the interruption that saves the whole thing from spiraling. But if she resists, if she gaslights, if she shames you for even bringing it up, then believe her silence. That's the answer you've been afraid of. But it's the answer you need. No matter what, The goal isn't control, it's clarity. You deserve to be loved in the open, to be wanted without secrecy, to be touched with truth, not guilt, to be fought for, not replaced. So many men suffer in silence because they think pain makes them weak. But vulnerability isn't weakness. It's access to real strength. The kind of strength that doesn't crumble when the woman you love betrays your trust. The kind of strength that says, I won't lose myself trying to keep someone who's already left me emotionally. And if you're still holding on, if you love her, if you believe there's still something sacred worth saving, then fight with presence. Not with control, but with clarity. Let her see the man who sees clearly. Let her feel the weight of being seen. Because if she still loves you, that clarity might just be the awakening she needs. But if she doesn't, if her silence is the answer, then you get to choose yourself. And there is no shame in that. Love is not meant to be a guessing game. Commitment should not feel like confusion. If you have to constantly wonder where you stand, you're already standing alone. So I'll leave you with this. From the part of me that believes in your wholeness, your healing, and your right to be fully seen, you are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You are not broken because someone couldn't hold you. Sometimes it's not about being perfect, it's about being honest and expecting that same honesty in return. Your heart is not a liability, it's your greatest strength. And if she can't see that, then maybe she's not the one who's meant to hold it anymore. There's something quietly devastating about staying loyal in your heart while watching someone else's slowly close off. And yet here you are, still hoping, still showing up, still holding the space she used to rush into. That hope, though, it's not foolish. It's proof of your capacity to love deeply, to stay steady, to believe. But hope, when left unspoken, can also become your prison, and it's in that quiet place, right between love and delusion, that many men lose themselves. Because here's the truth most people won't say out loud sometimes. She's already decided. Long before you saw the text, the secrecy, the fading smiles. Long before she stopped including you in her world. Long before she started rewriting your story. The decision wasn't just to cheat, it was to disconnect, slowly, quietly, sometimes even guiltily. And that decision didn't happen overnight. It started the moment she stopped turning toward you for comfort. When she began sharing her wins with someone else first, when she stopped needing your approval and started chasing someone else's attention. And this is where many men get caught. They try harder. They become sweeter, more accommodating, more available, thinking, if I just love her better, she'll stay. But here's what I want you to understand with crystal clarity. A woman who has already emotionally left will not be moved by perfection. She will not be swayed by your kindness, your gifts, your forgiveness. Because she's no longer choosing between two versions of you. She's choosing between herself as she is with you and the version of herself she believes she can be without you or with someone else. That's the battle you'll never win. Because it's not about you. It's about her identity, who she sees herself as in your relationship, and who she hopes to become by stepping out of it. So when you sense that, when you feel her already writing the ending in her mind, the most powerful thing you can do is not to beg her to stay. It's to ask yourself, what story am I writing about myself right now? Because this script, this story you're living through, it doesn't have to be a tragedy. It can be a turning point. But it only becomes one when you stop chasing the version of her that no longer exists and start reconnecting with the version of you that you abandoned in the process. You see, men don't just lose their partner in these moments. They lose themselves. They silence their needs. They shrink to avoid conflict. They overcompensate to avoid abandonment. And what they don't realize is that by doing so, they become invisible, not just to her, but to themselves. So ask yourself, when did I stop being honest with me? When did I stop saying, I need affection, or I need consistency, or I need truth? Because if you haven't said those words out loud, not just in your head, but with your voice, with your presence, then part of you is still hoping she'll figure it out on her own, that she'll wake up one day, realize what she's losing, and come rushing back. But let me offer you something radical. Maybe that's not the win you think it is. Maybe, just maybe, the real victory isn't her turning back around. Maybe the real victory is you turning toward yourself, toward truth, toward clarity, toward a life where you don't have to question if you're enough. And here's where it gets even more raw. Some women do come back, but not because they realize they love you more. Sometimes they come back because what they chased didn't give them what they hoped for. The affair didn't work out. The fantasy collapsed. The freedom wasn't fulfilling. And so they return, not out of love, but out of loss. And if you're not clear in yourself, you'll welcome her back. Because part of you still aches for her, still remembers who she used to be, still believes in who you used to be together. But ask yourself, are you willing to rebuild trust with someone who only returned because her escape didn't satisfy her? That's not love. That's settling. That's renting a heart that should be owned fully. So let this next truth land gently but firmly. You deserve to be chosen without competition, without guilt, without emotional breadcrumbs. You deserve a love that's grounded in presence, in loyalty, in truth. And if she can't give you that, it doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you one who sees clearly, who walks away when the soul is starving, who doesn't confuse closure with return. This moment you're in, not because it feels good, but because it's honest. And honesty is the beginning of healing, of power, of peace. You get to redefine what loyalty means, not as sacrificing your dignity to keep someone close, but as honoring your worth enough to walk away when they don't meet you there. And listen, it's okay to grieve, to ache, to still want her and still know you need to let go. That's not weakness. That's human. That's heartbreak. But heartbreak isn't the end. Sometimes it's the very beginning of you remembering who you are, before the fear, before the silence, before the loss. So take a breath. You are not broken. You are becoming. This moment right here is the place where most stories take one of two turns. One path leads back into the spiral, the constant second guessing, the desperate bargaining, the quiet begging masked as patience. That space where you keep waiting for her to realize, to apologize, to return fully, only to lose yourself piece by piece while she dances between your hope and her confusion. But then there's the other path. It's quieter, slower, but stronger, and that's the path of returning to yourself. See, the question you must answer now isn't, will she come back? Or, is she still cheating? Or, what does this mean for us? The real question is, what does this mean for you? Because you're not just a man who's been betrayed. You're not just the one left guessing, waiting, unraveling. You're the man standing at the doorway of a deeper truth. A truth most never dare to face. That sometimes the love you gave freely is not the love you'll receive in return. And that doesn't make your love any less sacred. You see, what makes you powerful isn't your ability to keep her. It's your ability to keep your center, even when she leaves it. Even when her affection fades, even when her loyalty breaks, even when her silence screams louder than her words. That is where your real power lives, not in control, not in chasing, not in convincing, but in knowing who you are, what you bring, what you won't beg for. And when you know that, really know it, everything changes. You stop measuring your value based on her attention. You stop interpreting her confusion as your failure. You stop shrinking, overfunctioning, carrying the emotional weight of two people. And instead, you rise gently, quietly, powerfully, because the man who can look betrayal in the face and say, I still choose peace, is the man who is no longer ruled by fear. So many men, when faced with infidelity or emotional abandonment, feel like they must do something, fix, chase, compete. But what if the strongest thing you could do is nothing? Nothing performative, nothing desperate. Just be still, clear, grounded. That doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but not at the expense of your sanity. And maybe, just maybe, this entire experience wasn't meant to destroy you, but to reveal you, to uncover the parts of you that were always too quiet, too accommodating, too eager to please. Maybe this was your initiation back into the full power of your presence, of your intuition, of your emotional boundaries, because love without respect is just dependency. And loyalty without reciprocity is just self-betrayal. So let this be your return, not to her, but to your own emotional truth. Yes, grieve, cry if you need to. Mourn the vision you had. Say goodbye to the future you once held sacred. But don't stay there. Rebuild, recenter. Remember who the hell you are. The man who loves deeply, who sees clearly, who values connection, but not at the price of self-erasure. And here's what I promise you: when you do this, when you walk through this fire without losing your soul, you don't just attract love again. You attract aligned love, the kind that doesn't play games, the kind that shows up fully, the kind that doesn't disappear when things get hard, a love rooted in respect, honesty, and emotional presence. But none of that starts out there. It starts right here with you, because you, my friend, are not defined by who stays or who strays. You are defined by who you become in the aftermath. So stand tall, not because she sees your worth now, but because you finally do. And if this video met you where you are today, if it touched something raw or helped you breathe a little deeper, I want you to do something brave. Share it, not because you need validation, but because someone else out there is feeling the same silence you've been carrying. Let this be a spark, a conversation, a mirror. Leave a comment below. Tell your story. Or simply say, I hear you, because sometimes just knowing you're not alone in this pain is enough to start the healing. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. We talk about what most people are afraid to say out loud: love, betrayal, healing, masculine strength through emotional truth. Because you deserve a space where your heart is safe, your voice is heard, and your story matters. Here's to every man choosing clarity over chaos, presence over performance, truth over pretending. Here's to you. You're not broken. You're just waking up. And that is where your real power begins.